everybody, welcome to the I Am IT Geek YouTube channel. My name is Shabazz Dar, and as ever, I am the IT Geek. Welcome back to what is episode 3 in the I Am IT Geek Career Journey series. So again, it's a bit of a non-tech series. I've been hinting, I've kind of said outright that I was going to do something like this for a while, and it's a couple of things, a couple of reasons why I wanted to do it. One of them is I saw some other people do some content. Peter Rising was one of them, and he did a video around how he became an MVP and stuff like that. And that personal story, I watched it and I thought it was a great video, and that personal story just really hit home. And I thought it was just nice to see some. There's so much tech content out there, and big up to all those people creating content, tech content. Peter Rising's channel is amazing, and I'm going to link it in my description. If you're not subscribed, you need to subscribe. It's just some great content. And so people like Dean Ellerby as well. He's got his own channel recently. I'll put that in the link in the description as well. But there's so much tech content out there. I really felt like I wanted a bit of a change to do some more personal content. I've got almost 3,000 subscribers. They don't all really know me that in a personal level. So it's nice to share some personal stories about my career journey and how I ended up in tech, what has built my passion for tech. And I think with me having such a big change coming up in my life with the Australia move, I think it was a good time to share these insights. I will be going back to tech series. I think probably starting when I get to Australia, I'll got a couple of tech series in mind. Going to go do some more exam topics. AZ 140 is one of them I want to cover, and probably the AZ 104 as I want to cover those topics. So expect those late this year, early next year. So we are seeing episode 3. Just as a recap, first episode kind of spoke about my university years, my year in industry, all that sort of stuff. And then in the last video, I spoke about my first job in tech and the people that really influenced me in that role and what it was about and how I found it. And as I mentioned, the reason for me leaving was I was there for about 18 months, I think. And the reason I left was because I'd got married during my time there. I was very young, I was 23. I was traveling a lot. And with my wife, not from being from Pakistan, outside the UK, my wife, Rima, it was difficult for her to settle in. And with me being away all the time didn't help. So it was a personal choice that I had to put forward. And I'll always say this to people in the industry and people who are coming up in the industry or anybody. Your personal life takes precedence, and that's my opinion. Work is important, obviously, but if my family comes first, it always will do, and that's never going to change. So yeah, and obviously she's my wife, so she came first. So I had to move to have a bit more stability in my life and not travel as much. So that brings me to my second job after graduating. So it was an architect's practice called IDAS Architects. That's what they're called at the time. Now called AHR Global. And again, I need to give a massive shout out to AHR Global because they were so helpful with my visa application. They gave me, they helped me out with a letter that they did for me that had all my sort of job role. I had 2 job roles while I was there, and it was for my skills application, and they were really helpful with information. So I'm massively grateful for and the AHR Global, they are now known as at the time IDAS, for doing that, and it's helped me with my visa application, which is still pending, by the way. So a bit of a touchy subject with me, if I'm honest with you. I'd rather not talk about it too much because I'm sat here waiting. Again, it was a service desk. The first desk was a service desk engineer, I think it was. That was basically help desk support, and again it was a second line role that I'd gone for because I had that experience, and it was office based. For them, they had field engineers, but they had service desk engineers who were based on site in Huddersfield. So they had offices all over the UK: Bristol, Huddersfield, London, Edinburgh. I want to say Shrewsbury as well. Yeah, Shrewsbury, I think. And it was a gentleman called Neil Ewing who hired me. And James Posner, and again Neil reached out to me a few weeks ago actually, and was just congratulating me on my move and all the stuff that I've done, and he's doing really well, and I believe James Posner as well. So again, I'll put their LinkedIn profiles in the description. 2 people who again gave me a chance at IDAS and were very very influential during my time at IDAS Architects, and I'm very grateful for their support. But yeah, so it was a service desk, and again, it was the same sort of support I was doing. Windows Server, it was still on premises. There was still, at this point in my career, I'd not touched cloud. Okay, so again, it was still, I don't know if cloud was about. It might have been in the early stages of cloud or not. I can't quite remember, but it wasn't around. There weren't any customers, and this was an internal IT department as well. So it was a new role. I was working with internal people. I wasn't working for, I didn't have clients. I had IDAS were my client. I was there at internal IT department or part of it. So we had three service desk engineers, or three or four service, and we had three field engineers from the time. A massive shout out to Andy Botchway and Sajad Aslam. Sajad he ended up being my boss towards the end of my career at IDAS. And again, I worked with Andy at IDAS and at Concord, my next role, but I'll wait for episode 4 to talk about Concord. But yeah, it was two probably, and I'm still mates with them. This is what I mean. I've built these relationships, and I still speak to Andy, regularly, mainly about football. He's a Liverpool fan, so we talk regularly, and I'm always, every now and then catch up with Sajad just to see how he's doing. We've both got a daughter called Zoya. I kind of stole the name from him. His daughter came first. Anyway, so yeah, again another piece of advice: build those relationships. In your jobs, in your career, because again, you never know when they'll come in handy. It was because of Sajad that I was able to get the letter from IDAS, because he still had contacts there. So I'm forever grateful to him as well. And so I started off on this service desk engineer role, and it was based in Huddersfield, and it just gave me stability in my life. I was going from Bradford to Huddersfield every day, was back home, and I had a good time, wasn't travelling. And on the few occasions that I did have to travel, it was like the same day. It was London, or it might have been one overnight thing in Edinburgh time to time. Very rare though, because I was desk based. Sometimes if you had to cover the field engineer who was on holiday, that was a bit different. But yeah, it was again, I learnt so much there, and I did some of my the early Windows Server 2008 course that I passed there. There's an Active Directory exam that I did as well, and again, they were very supportive of all that, and I learned. I was there almost 6 years, I think I was there, and that was a long time. I'm one of those people where it's not about loyalty. It's that if I'm somewhere and I'm being treated well, and I'm enjoying myself, and feel like I'm being paid fairly, what reason do I have to leave? Not everyone will agree with that. Some people might think, you should leave every couple of years, a new job, just to make sure you get those pay. No, I like to I like to be part of something. I like to build something where I'm at, and I feel like I did that at IDAS. Unfortunately, like most places at the time, I think it was about 3 years into my time there. They got hit by the economic crisis that happened at the time, and they had to make redundancies. And there were a few of my very close friends at the time who got made redundant. It was quite a difficult time for me, if I'm honest with you. I've never experienced that in my career. I hadn't been made redundant. I was lucky enough not to be made redundant, but we halved our team. The team was more than how nearly 60% of our team went down, and we still had the same workload. And although it was very tough emotionally for me, because I'd never experienced that, and I was still relatively young. I was still in my mid 20s, so I'd not redundancy and stuff like that. It was a new thing for me, new experience in my career. So I'd never experienced it before, so it was difficult, and I struggled with it at the time. I struggled not to understand. Obviously, the company did the right thing. There's certain things that are bigger than you and me. The company has to keep on. The company needs to stay afloat. They need to keep on going. They've got hundreds of people to think about. They made the right decision, but it didn't make the decisions any easier to take. And I know, there were some awful conversations. I think it hit the people who had, the likes of James Posner and Neil, who did a great job with it all. I think it hit them quite hard as well. But it is what it is. It was, again, it was something that helped. I feel like really helped me build character. In a way, it toughened me up a bit as well, I think, because it's not all good. It's not all this industry. It's not all flowers and there are bad parts to it. There are tough parts to it, like in life, I suppose. And that was probably the first real piece of adversity that I really had in my career, and I really struggled with it for a while. But like anything, you focus, you get past it, and the team grew again. And by the time I left, we were back to double in size again. And Sajid Aslam was a manager. Neil had moved on. James Posner had moved on. Andy Botchway had moved on. I think he came back in the end as well. But anyway, he moved on, and again, I'd moved into more of a third line sort of role, project role. The problem was I stunted. I'll be honest with you, I got comfortable, and mainly it's because I was very good friends with my boss. Like I said, me and Sajid were really good friends. He's like a big brother to me again. I seem to have a lot of big brothers. Anyway, and again, it was I kind of stayed there 2 years too long, in my opinion. I was not growing technically. I wasn't learning anything new. I was doing just the bare minimum, and I'm not afraid to say that. And a part of me, I'm a bit disappointed in myself. If I think back, I look back and go, oh man, what were you doing? I look at how I work now, and if like for a couple of weeks, if I'm not learning stuff, I start getting itchy, and I don't like not making a difference. I wasn't making a squat bit of difference there. There were people who were joining the company, the team, who were massively excelling ahead of me, and it really hit me. And I remember when I thought, you know what, I need to get out. And it wasn't anything to do with IDAS. They did nothing wrong. It wasn't to do with them. It's to do with me. I just got too comfortable in my role. Again, for the role I was doing at the time, I was getting paid quite well. But I thought, you know what, I need a change. And again, I was quite clear with my boss, Sajid Aslam at the time. I kind of said, look, I think it's best for the company and me if I move on, because I'm not doing anyone any good here. And that was scary because my skills had not moved with the times. So I had loads of experience in support. I almost had like 7-8 years experience in supporting VMware, Exchange server, Windows service, that stuff, to a second line role, sort of second line level. But I'd stunted a bit, and there were like newer versions of Exchange, new versions of VMware that I just was not up to date with, and I was struggling. And there were a couple of incidents that happened where there was like a P1 and I struggled to fix it, and it caused more delays, and it's just difficult. It was difficult for me to take because I wasn't enjoying it. And that I go back to, I've said that in a couple of these videos now, I need to enjoy what I'm doing. I wasn't enjoying my work at all. So I made the decision to move on. Again, I kind of put myself out there, put my CV out there. I had 2 or 3 interviews, to be fair. This went a lot better than the last time. I had 2 or 3 interviews because, again, I had a decent CV, I had a decent experience. Again, the competition was mad. And I didn't end up, it took me a couple of months again to find a role. And that's where I went for my Concord technology. That's where I got that kind of role from. But I'm going to save that story for the next video, because that's it's very interesting how I got that job, and I wanna save that for the next video. So again, major takeaway from this video again is don't get too comfortable. People might like that. I didn't like that. I wouldn't recommend getting too comfortable, because that's when you stop learning. That's when you stop trying, and that's what happened to me. I stopped trying. I stopped learning. I just wasn't enjoying it. I started to resent the place because I felt like it was them, but it wasn't. It was me. So again, I'm glad that happened, because it allowed me to if that hadn't have happened, I might not have moved on to Concord. So, and again, Concord was almost 6 amazing years, which again, with ups and downs, which I'll talk about. But and I made some great relationships there. So the first takeaway is, for me, I recommend don't get stunted and don't get too comfortable in your role, because that's when your performance will start dipping. And again, the whole theme, there's a theme throughout all these videos: build that network, build those relationships. I've mentioned 2 people. I'll put Andy Botchway and Sajid Aslam's LinkedIn profiles down below. I built those relationships, and they're still my friends today, and I still speak to them. So that's it for episode 3. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, let me know more about some of your roles that you've done, some of the relationships you've built. I'd be really interested to hear some feedback about how different people in tech and some of the key relationships in their life. Have you ever got too comfortable in a role? Let me know. Put in the comments. Tell me the story. I'd love to hear about it and understand. Is it, or is it just me? I want to know it's not just me. So, yeah, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.